What comes to your mind when I mention West Asia? Conflict, regional rights.
Something fun to talk about on top of, I'm going to be showing you guys some really cool information.
People started shooting the lights out of this thing, and it didn't die, trust me.
Backed by national security forces in Iraq, cordoned.
In a world where we think we've pretty much figured everything out, there are still moments that just take your breath away. The true story of U.S. soldier John Pounders down at the Euphrates River, the very river the Bible says will one day release end times beings, is one of those moments that hits you like a ton of bricks. Can you feel it? It's like something is rising up from the past to remind us the clock is ticking fast. Those pitch-black caverns under the water, swirling beams of light that look like they're calling somebody's name, sounds that make the river's surface shake, and a chained creature that's still breathing. And today's video isn't here to scare you, it's here to take you deep into the 5 jaw-dropping discoveries John made. What he saw will make you look at all those old prophecies with completely new eyes. Every single one feels soaked in God's warnings. Folks, we're running out of time, and we don't have to wait any longer. Let's jump right in with 1. Discovering huge, intricate cave structures under the river bottom. Down in the muddy Euphrates River during the war, an American soldier named John Pounders and his patrol boat crew saw something nobody expected. A massive underground structure with carved cave openings that looked like they came from some lost civilization nobody ever wrote about. The water was strangely clear, way clearer than any geological report ever said it could be. So clear, they could see these big doorways just sitting there, wide open, like they were waiting for somebody to walk in. Can you feel how breathless that moment must have been? If you were out there on that boat, would you have had the guts to get even 1 meter closer? When the boat was only about 50 to 100 feet away, the underwater caverns showed up plain as day, almost like something inside them was lighting them up. No bubbles, no current, just deep black openings that looked like entrances to some huge system built before the flood. This was back in 03 and 04, right in the middle of the heaviest fighting in Iraq, and none of the guys on patrol thought they'd run into anything that didn't have to do with the war. Just picture it. A building sitting on the water, but the bottom part that's underwater has perfect doors carved into it, like some kind of supernatural architecture. Does that sound normal to you at all? That sight immediately brought to mind the prophecy in Revelation 6:15-17. Then the kings of the earth hid in caves and among the rocks of the mountains. Those caverns under the Euphrates looked exactly like sealed-up hiding places waiting for the last days, and the fact that they showed up when the river suddenly turned crystal clear only made it feel like time is running out. That Bible verse felt like an echo coming right up through the water, reminding everyone that these weren't just rocks and sand. They were a warning written thousands of years ago. As John and his team moved closer, the sunlight hit the water and made a weird, bright streak that lit up geometric carvings on the stone doors. It stopped them cold, because the Euphrates is almost always muddy with silt. You never see the bottom. That ties right into Isaiah 2. Enter into the rock and hide in the dust. These caverns felt like the exact rocks the Bible was talking about. Places ready for when people have to run and hide from the glory of the Lord. And you know what's really scary? They were sitting right under the soldiers' boat, almost like they were calling out or warning them. A lot of skeptics say it was just battle fatigue or some old forgotten military bunker. But the water being impossibly clear, plus the fact that different witnesses all said they could see 20 to 30 feet down, makes that explanation pretty weak. Even over here in the States, people have seen similar underwater structures in Lake Michigan. Are we supposed to believe that's all just coincidence? And if it really was some military thing, why did the brass immediately order everybody to keep quiet about it? In the end, the whole scene brings us back to Isaiah 2:19. They shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth, for fear of the Lord. Those underground structures under the Euphrates might be part of the very network of hiding places the Bible described for the last days. This isn't just a geographical discovery. It's a spiritual sign, a knock on the door telling mankind to take a hard look at our faith. What do you think? Could this be part of the prophecy slowly unfolding right in front of us? 2. Spotting strange lights under the water. As the team of soldiers got close to the underwater structure in the Euphrates River, John Pounders and his buddies suddenly saw something even scarier than the darkness waiting ahead. Weird lights glowing down at the bottom of the water. These weren't lights from military gear, and they weren't sunlight reflecting off anything. They were separate, cold, quiet little points of light, almost like they were waiting for someone to notice them. Pretty hard to explain with regular science, right? The water that day was unbelievably clear for a war zone. You could see all the way down to about 20 feet. When the boat was still about 50 feet from the hidden structure, 5 or 6 of these lights started glowing under the surface, so clear that even with all the stress, nobody could mistake what they were seeing. The lights didn't flicker, didn't blink, didn't look like any kind of military lamp. They just stayed steady and bright, like eyes watching the boat. John said one of the guys up front suddenly pointed down and went pale, muttering, "What is that?" Then the lights started moving a little on their own, not drifting with the current, not following any normal pattern. No sound came from them, but the air on the boat suddenly felt heavy, like something invisible was pressing down. If you saw 5 or 6 glowing spots moving by themselves under an ancient river that's mentioned in Bible prophecy, could you stay calm? Those mystery lights instantly brought to mind end times prophecies. In Luke 21:25, the Bible warns, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish. Signs in the sky and on the earth," which fits perfectly with lights showing up under the Euphrates as the river keeps drying lower every year. Right there, the line between natural and supernatural starts getting blurry. From the very beginning, light has always been used to mark special moments. Genesis 1:14 says, "Let there be lights to mark sacred times and days and years." If lights in the sky can be signs, then lights under a river tied straight to end times prophecy, could they be trying to wake humanity up? That question feels more urgent when modern reports talk about similar underwater lights showing up in other places around the world. Plenty of skeptics say it was just dive lights, metal reflections, or some kind of group hallucination. But 5 or 6 steady lights that stay still and then move on their own, appearing exactly when the boat reaches the hidden structure, that's an awful lot of coincidences to brush off. Reports from Lake Michigan and a few lakes up in Canada describe the same kind of thing. So the hallucination idea really doesn't hold much water. The Bible keeps pointing towards something supernatural here. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great signs from heaven." And the original word for signs covers strange things happening in nature too, not just up in the sky. When lights appear under the very river where 4 angels are said to be bound, Revelation chapter 9, it sure makes you stop and think. All of this shows that whatever's hidden under the Euphrates isn't just ancient history. It might be prophecy starting to come alive piece by piece. Those quiet, mysterious lights showing up right on cue feel like an urgent reminder that the last days aren't far off. You may not believe in the supernatural, but how many more coincidences like this can the world rack up before all the pieces finally fit together? 3. Those mysterious lights came together into one craft. Just when the whole team was still confused about the 5 or 6 lights down at the bottom of the river, something even scarier happened. Those separate points of light started moving toward the same spot, like some invisible hand was pulling them all together. The clear Euphrates suddenly got restless, and everybody felt like something was about to happen that was way beyond anything humans could imagine. When the boat was still about 30 feet from the underwater structure, the lights all joined into one bright mass, so intense that the water surface looked like it was steaming. John remembers it clear as day. A blinding flash of sound shot straight up from deep below, strong enough to tip their 20-foot boat sideways. 1 second slower to react, and the whole team would have been in the water. That sound wasn't like an engine or any machine. It was more like the deep roar of something huge getting ready to break through the surface. The Bible talks about shaking like that. In Ezekiel 38:20 it says, "The fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the animals in the field, and all people on the face of the earth will tremble at my presence." That noise under the Euphrates that day really did make people tremble, not just from fear, but because it felt like this wasn't natural at all. Then the thing nobody expected happened. The ball of light changed shape. It squeezed in, got smaller, then opened up into an oval object, like a strange craft that didn't belong to any technology humans have ever had. It spun once under the water and shot straight into the dark mouth of the cavern, so fast the eye could barely follow it. Some folks who hear this story tell me, "Nah, that sounds like a movie." But really, a lot of end-time events left people back then just as stunned. When the craft disappeared into the cave, the river went dead quiet again, like nothing had ever happened. But in the Bible, the Euphrates River is always tied to powers that are locked up. Revelation 9:14 says, "Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates." Could that craft have been a sign of that release starting? Something sent ahead? A messenger allowed to show up when the time is right? The questions just keep getting bigger, especially now that the river is drying up worse than anyone's ever seen. If this craft is a new thing, then the words in Isaiah 43:19 hit hard. "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" People usually only notice the signs after it's too late. So this craft, appearing, changing shape, then vanishing into the cave, could it be the first warning of things that are about to rise up? Of course, there are still some folks who don't believe in anything spiritual and figure it was secret technology, an underwater drone, or some military test gear. But tell me this, what kind of technology makes a sound that rocks a whole boat, turns light into a craft right in a war zone, and then takes off in a way that breaks every rule of physics? If the U.S. military had something like that, they sure wouldn't have kept it hidden this well. So this discovery didn't just shock everybody, it felt like a trumpet wake-up call. It's saying that under the Euphrates, invisible movements are happening, some kind of life or powers getting ready to come up. The Lord always leaves signs before he moves. The only question is, are we going to see them? 4. Discovering the chained creature that was still breathing. The second the craft vanished into the mouth of the cave, the whole team was still trying to catch their breath when John suddenly froze. About 15 feet back in the darkness, a huge black shape started coming forward out of the depths. Nobody said a word, but that silence was scarier than gunfire. The soldiers' flashlights hit it, and everybody saw the thick chains, big around as a man's wrist, wrapped all over the thing's body. Those weren't chains made by people. They looked ancient, heavy, and dark in a way that gave you the creeps. But the part that still makes my heart pound when John tells it wasn't the chains, it was that the thing was still breathing. Its chest rose and fell, slow and steady, like something had been trying to keep it locked up for thousands of years and still couldn't quite kill it. The skin looked like rock scales, part reptile, part something no biology book ever had a name for. Every time it breathed, that skin shifted a little and caught the flashlight beams like wet metal. Worse yet, its eyes were open just a slit, 2 glowing red spots, like hot coals, staring straight through the water and right into whoever was looking. That sight took John straight back to the Bible verses his dad used to read him when he was a kid. In Jude 1-6, it says the angels who left their proper place are kept in eternal chains under darkness. This pitch-black cave, these chains, this thing that just wouldn't die, it all fit, and it gave him chills. If you ever thought chained angels was just a figure of speech, well, the Euphrates that night showed different. John remembered another verse too. 2 Peter 2:4. God cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment. That cave under the Euphrates wasn't just a hole in the ground, it was a prison. And what was inside wasn't a demon or an animal. It was something that once stood in God's presence and fell. Makes you shiver to think stories we called myths are showing up in real life here in the 21st century, doesn't it? A cold chill ran down John's back when he thought about Revelation 9:14. Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. If one of them is chained right here, where are the other 3? Did the craft rushing into that cave just start the releasing? And why did this thing show up right when the Euphrates River is drier than it's ever been? Some folks in the comments say it could have been a giant fish or some mutated animal from the wars. Sounds reasonable, until you remember what fish gets wrapped in ancient chains. What animal has eyes that glow like fire and breathes like it's holding on to the last bit of its soul? If it's natural, why is it sitting exactly where the Bible said fallen angels would be locked away? And I believe this wasn't just something terrifying to see, it's a warning. A creature that's been imprisoned is still alive and waiting to be set free. When it fully wakes up, the whole world is going to feel it. Those chains are rusting, and the time of releasing is closer than ever. You ready to hear the 5th discovery? Because from here on out, it only gets worse. 5. A creature that's pretty much immortal, in a terrifying way. The second they laid eyes on that chained-up thing, the quiet in the cave didn't last long. Water started thrashing hard from the darkness down below, and anybody standing on the boat grabbed the wooden edge for dear life. The tension got so thick, one wrong breath felt like it'd rip your heart clean out. Then the guns went off. Not just one shot, boom, 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 one right after another, like metal popping out of the barrel just trying to buy a few more seconds alive. But the scariest part wasn't the gunfire. It was what the creature did. It didn't back up, didn't flinch, didn't even slow down. It just got mad. The water shook like a storm had dropped right inside the cave. Waves slammed the side of the boat so hard, it felt like something grabbed the whole thing from underneath and yanked whatever that power was. It was way beyond anything people have ever faced from a normal animal. It let out a roar that sounded thick and heavy, like steel bending. That feeling of it being impossible to kill took me straight back to the Leviathan in Psalm 74-14, the one only God himself can take down. I'm not just saying that to sound fancy. That's exactly what was happening. Something that doesn't play by the usual rules. And Job 41-33 felt like it was whispering right there in the dark. Nothing on earth is its equal. The bullets just kept sinking, disappearing into the black water like they were never fired. Every shot only made the thing matter, like pain was something it got bored of a long time ago. That huge body started moving toward the boat, dragging everything down with a force that crushed the surface of the water. Its rage felt a lot like Revelation 9:15, those beings that have been waiting, chained up, ready to come pouring out in fury after thousands of years locked away. In that moment, it wasn't just a picture in a book anymore. It was breathing, roaring, trying to pull men straight down into the dark. Some folks try to say, oh, it was probably just a big fish, or maybe a giant alligator, or some huge reptile. But alligators don't laugh at bullets, don't roar loud enough to feel like an earthquake in the water, and sure don't yank a boat down like a man grabbing your arm. Plain and simple, the size, the way it acted, the raw power, none of it matched any animal we've ever known. When the boat finally got away, the water behind them was still churning like something invisible kept pounding it, like the creature still wasn't ready to let go. All the signs, the roar, the shaking, the fact nothing heard it, added up to one awful truth. This wasn't natural. And right then, what happened in that cave stopped being just a discovery. It turned into proof that things are waking up. Things the Bible warned us about thousands of years ago are coming up out of the dark places under the ground and under the water, reminding us the last days are closer than ever. We've just walked through one jaw-dropping moment after another that John lived through. He even said this stuff is so hard to believe, most people will think he's making it up, And he's not even trying to prove anything. He just left everybody with one line that'll give you chills. The Bible is real, the power of God is real, and we're just about out of time. Do you believe this, soldier? This discovery that year, when all the pieces were put together like ancient fragments buried for thousands of years, formed a picture way bigger than anything those soldiers could have ever imagined. It all started as just a routine patrol, but what they ran into felt like getting yanked straight into a chapter of the Bible that was still being written. And the scariest part? Nothing about it felt random. It was like one marker after another getting triggered in perfect order. Those underground structures at the bottom of the river, cold, untouched, clearly not made by human hands, were the opening act of the whole story. No tech marks, no signs of natural water flow, just perfect, almost suspicious precision. They looked like the foundation of something that used to stand there or was waiting to be rebuilt. Like a door that's been locked for way too long, just needing one final push. Then came the lights underwater, steady, no flickering, definitely not man-made. When they gathered together and reflected off the crystal clear water all the way to the bottom, it felt like some kind of life down there was opening its eyes and watching us. It gave you chills, like you were right there on that boat yourself, hearing the water shake under your feet. For a few seconds, nobody knew if they were staring at something the Bible talked about thousands of years ago. Those lights weren't just lights. They merged into one thing with purpose, a craft, oval-shaped, sharp like liquid steel. It shot through the water faster than anything natural should move. In that moment, every scientific explanation just died. It wasn't what's down in the river anymore. It was that thing is waking up. The craft dove straight into a dark cave about 15 feet deep, like a signal waking something far older than mankind. And then they saw it. The chained creature, scaly skin, glowing eyes, chest still rising and falling like time never touched it. Living proof of what the book of Jude 1-6 talks about, the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, he has kept in eternal chains. Not a symbol, not a metaphor, a real being chained right in front of them. When the soldier's bullet hit it, what happened next changed everything for the whole team. The creature didn't fall, didn't weaken, it just got mad. A raw, ancient rage that made the water boil like a storm that'd been locked up for thousands of years. Waves slammed the boat so hard they almost got dragged under, like the thing was just stretching after a very long nap. And that's when the big picture came into focus, clearer than any military report. An underground structure like a gate, lights like a signal, a craft like the one who wakes it, a chained creature waiting for orders, and immortal power like the final seal. All of it right there under the Euphrates. You feel it, don't you? When you put every piece together, nothing looks random anymore. It runs like a chain of events, written a long time ago, just waiting for the right moment to show itself. Ever get the feeling you're watching an old prophecy play out? Only this time it's real, it's close, and it's a lot scarier. Revelation 16:12 is the key to the whole picture. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare the way for the kings from the east. The Euphrates drying up so bad in 2025 isn't just some weather thing. It's a warning going off right on time. If the river's opening up, what's getting ready to walk out? Then Revelation 9:14-15 talks about 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates, being released, beings that have been waiting for the hour, the day, the month, and the year. The matchup with these 5 things the soldiers saw with their own eyes down in that water cave is too perfect to ignore. The craft, the chained creature, the shaking water, it's all like ancient memories waking up because the river went dry. And Luke 21:25 says, "There'll be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth, nations in anguish because of the roaring and tossing of the sea, the waves roaring in that cave, the water shaking, the lights at the bottom of the river." Doesn't it sound an awful lot like what that verse is talking about? Just imagine, if this is only the beginning, how big is what's waiting behind that wall of Euphrates water. I'm not saying this to scare anybody. I'm saying the Bible's picture was never some far-off thing. It's always been right here. We just couldn't see it until the signs started piling up like this. Skeptics can call it nature, coincidence, exaggeration, but when 5 separate events line up almost perfectly with what Revelation describes, coincidence doesn't cut it anymore. The only thing that makes sense is the gate under the Euphrates is opening. And when that gate opens, whatever steps out isn't just one patrol story anymore. It's the story of our whole time. The story the Bible warned us about thousands of years ago, only this time it's happening right in front of us. After everything John had seen, from the battlefields of the Middle East to strange signs showing up in the skies over America, he had to go looking for answers. It all started with one simple thought. If the old prophets warned us, then time has to make some kind of sense. He started with Enoch, the 7th man from Adam, the one the Bible says walked with God and was not, for God took him. In the book of Enoch, it's not in the regular Bible, but a lot of scholars still talk about it. There's this hint: the big judgments would come after 70 generations. Sounds like a weird number, but when you put it on a timeline, it opens your eyes. John wondered, if a generation back then was around 70 years, like a lot of old ways of counting, then 70 generations adds up to about 4,900 years. And if you start from Noah's flood, the answer might be closer than we think. Most folks go by Bishop Ussher's dates and put the flood around 2348 BC. But this soldier used a different marker, 1776 Anno Mundi, a year that happens to match exactly with 1776 AD. The first one was the judgment in Noah's day. The second was the year the Bavarian Illuminati started, the year America was born, the year a bunch of weird symbols popped up. Everything from the Statue of Liberty, which started out looking like Helios or Lucifer, to the broken chains at her feet. It felt like a reminder that this was when the bound angels started getting loose. To him, it wasn't coincidence anymore. 1776 became a sign, a quiet starting gun. He wrote in his notebook, if 1776 AM is the flood marker, then 70 generations later lands around 2552 AD. That's way off in the future. But his gut told him the truth wasn't there. Because if everything was really going to drag out until the 26th century, why is the world shaking so hard right now? Why are the signs piling up in just the last few decades? So he looked at a second idea, one from Rob Skiba. Skiba said the 70 generations don't start with Adam, they start with Abraham, because Matthew chapter 1 lists 42 generations from Abraham to Christ. If we need 70 total, that leaves only about 14 or 15 generations after Jesus. And if you use the older way of counting a generation, 120 to 150 years, the endpoint falls right at the start of the 20th century, exactly when the world started seeing things it had never seen before. The soldier flipped through his notes on the 20th century and saw one thing after another. UFOs started showing up big time in the 40s, but people were already reporting a few strange things back in the late 1910s. Technology took off like nothing normal. Human knowledge exploded, just like Daniel 12:4 said it would. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall increase. Something got opened, something got let out, and it all kicked off right in the window Skiba pointed to. What really gave him chills was how both ways of counting, one from Enoch, one from Skiba, pointed to the same two moments, 1776 and the early 20th century. Both tied to a huge jump in knowledge, secret societies rising up, things from outside Earth showing themselves, and a deep change in what people are like inside. It felt like a door cracked open, or an old prison got its locks picked. He kept checking against what's happening now. The big rivers in the Middle East are drying up fast, especially the Euphrates, the one Revelation 9 says has 4 bound angels waiting. NASA and Al Jazeera both say the water level has dropped hard since 2021 and could lose 70% by 2040. He added another line, 2025, the year the Euphrates bottom might show, right on the timeline Revelation warns about. If those angels get loose there, everything could happen in the next 10 or 20 years, not next century. And don't you see it too? All these facts, these history markers, these old prophecies, everything going on right now, they fit together like puzzle pieces into one big picture. To him, they're not coincidences anymore. They're signals. Signals that the last days aren't far off, and the next big cleansing, whatever shape it takes, is coming. He left himself 2 final possibilities, like closing the book. Option A. The Watchers started getting released back in 1776. The symbols, the suspicious timing, all the cultural and spiritual bombs that went off from America and spread everywhere. Option B. They got loose at the start of the 20th century, right when human knowledge crossed the line. Technology exploded, and beings from somewhere else started showing up all over. Today, with the Euphrates drying, the world shaking from sky to ground, signs crowding the heavens, he believes we're standing right on the edge of it. Enoch's count, Skeba's count, the numbers the old ones left us, they're all pointing to the same spot. The end is close, real close. And the soldier knows one thing for sure. Getting ready isn't something for tomorrow. It starts today, right now. Here are the 5 things that American Soldier shared with us. From the signs in the sky, strange changes in nature, the prophetic data about 70 generations, the rise of knowledge since the early 1900s, all the way to the drying up of the Euphrates River, they all fit together like pieces of one big picture, clearer now than ever before. They're not just random things happening. They're part of a flow that's carrying humanity right up to the doorstep of what the old prophets talked about. And that man is standing right in the middle of it, like a witness who has to speak up. When we hear his story, every one of us knows deep down that this isn't just interesting information. It's a wake-up call for our spirit and our soul. The time we're living in isn't ordinary. The world is shaking exactly the way the Bible said it would. And in the middle of all this chaos, the most important thing isn't to be afraid. It's to turn back to the one who made us. If your heart feels restless right now, that's not by accident. It's a gentle nudge to stop, repent, pray, and put our full trust in the Lord. Because He's the only safe place left when the world slides into what the Bible calls the last days. Real preparation isn't about stocking up on food, money, or guns. It's about getting our hearts right and coming home to the source of life. I'd like to invite you, if you feel led, to leave a short prayer or just your honest thought about this soldier's story down in the comments. Even one sentence is fine. Even something you can barely put into words is fine. When we speak up together, faith gets stirred, and light breaks through, even in the darkest places. And if this video touched you in any way, made you think, woke something up inside, or just helped you look at the world a little more seriously, please hit like, share it, and subscribe. That way, you won't miss what comes next. And more people who need this warning and this hope will get to hear it too. Thank you for taking the time to watch the whole thing. In a world that's spinning out of control, the fact that you sat here, listened, and let it sink in, that's already a powerful thing. May the Lord be with you, guide you, and open your spiritual eyes to see what you need to see in these special days. God bless you and your family.
Gave much of the country a freezing cold Christmas. The bomb cyclone is blamed.
Tonight, the National Weather Service is warning that a historic winter storm is on.
25 basis point rate cut. The Federal Reserve lowering its benchmark interest.
But as I've said, we think we're well positioned to wait and see how the
new surveillance footage. It shows the moments leading up to and following a senseless random attack.
Let them go.
Within minutes of Zarutska sitting down on the train, the suspect sitting by
What in the world is going on? The whole planet feels like it's shaking. And are you feeling it too? The breaking news out of America on December 11, 2025 hits us like one shock after another. Deadly blizzards tearing across the states. The Fed cutting interest rates even though inflation just won't quit. The immigration fight blowing up again after that murder in Charlotte. Trump taking another loss in court. The Northern Lights putting on a wild show in the sky, and a plane crashing right down onto cars on the interstate. Every single story feels like a piece of a crazy puzzle that's coming together to paint a picture of the last days. Do you see something bigger hiding behind all these numbers and pictures? Come with me and let's dig into each one so we can see the warnings and the messages the Lord has quietly tucked in there. So don't skip a thing, all right? Now let's get started with the first one. 1. Fierce winter storms slam the whole country. On December 11, 2025, America got hit hard by a monster winter storm that stretched across more than 40 states, from the East Coast clear to the West Coast. Heavy snow, flooding rain, and bone-chilling cold forced thousands of folks to get out of harm's way. Doesn't your heart beat a little faster when you see pictures of cars stuck for hours, roads turned pure white, and wind howling like it wants to rip everything apart? This isn't just regular weather. It feels like nature is sending one message after another, loud and non-stop. The National Weather Service says the polar vortex is shoving Arctic air down, while an atmospheric river pours in moisture from the Pacific Northwest. It's not only a weather challenge. It's a reminder of how fragile the balance of this old Earth really is. The biggest early season storm in 10 years makes you wonder, is this all this just random? Or is something bigger going on? When the snow piles up, Matthew 24, verse 7, pops into my head, and maybe yours too. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. Could Mother Nature be pointing us toward the last days? It started early this week with 4 to 6 inches in Chicago, up to 9 inches in Iowa and South Dakota, and over 2 feet in parts of New York and Massachusetts. Whiteout conditions made it impossible to see your hand in front of your face. Hundreds of flights got canceled at JFK and Logan. Car wrecks shot way up in Kansas. At least 5 people didn't make it. Out west, record flooding around Snoqualmie Falls forced more than 9 million people to evacuate. Looking at numbers like that, don't you feel like time itself is speeding up and every minute counts? Right in the middle of all those cold, hard facts, Luke 21 verse 11 comes to mind like a quiet warning. There will be great earthquakes, famines and pestilences in various places, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven. These roaring winds, blinding snow, and raging floods feel an awful lot like those great signs from heaven. Temperatures dropped to -22 in 17 states from the Midwest to the East Coast. Schools and offices shut down. Highways turned into parking lots. Supply chains came to a standstill, yet people kept fighting, hour after hour. On X, rescue videos are running 24/7 with millions of views. Folks crying for help, sharing pictures, telling how they made it through the night. In the middle of all that hardship, Job 37 verse 6 feels truer than ever. He says to the snow, "Fall on the earth," and to the rain shower, "Be a mighty downpour." Can you sense that mighty power at work in every gust and every drifting snowbank? Climate experts say it's just man-made climate change, that Noah can explain it all with charts and graphs. They tell us big storms have always happened and tying them to the Bible is just old-fashioned superstition. But when you see how strong and how often these things are hitting in 2025, can you really call it coincidence? One storm right after another, record cold followed by historic floods. Does that leave much room for doubt? The numbers, the pictures, the rescue stories, they're not just news. They're pieces of a bigger picture about the last days. The snow, the floods, the wind, they're warnings from nature, but woven right through them are signs from God, reminding us He's watching, and His power is in every drop of rain and every flake of snow. Have you ever stopped in the middle of your busy day and asked yourself, am I paying attention? Am I ready for whatever's coming? Looking at the whole thing, this storm isn't only bad weather. It's a sign, a test for all of us. When you see those pictures of whiteout roads, howling wind, and water rushing everywhere, ask yourself, what's waiting up ahead? And am I awake to the signs the Lord is sending every single day? These storms are like the heartbeat of the earth, fast, strong, and full of power, reminding every one of us how short this life is and how eternity is right around the corner. 2. Fed makes a big rate cut, a little hope for regular folks, while inflation just won't quit. With America still trying to pick up the pieces after years of economic ups and downs, the Fed surprised everybody by cutting interest rates another 25 basis points, like a breath of fresh air in a room that's felt stuffy for way too long. In a year when most of us are used to watching prices go up at the grocery store and the gas pump doing its usual roller coaster routine, this news brought a tiny spark of hope, the kind you feel when you spot a streetlight on a dark road and know you're not completely lost. You know how it's been. The economy after the pandemic has given us 3 tough years in a row. Inflation that just won't come down, interest rates that kept climbing and squeezing millions of families, and 60% of households living paycheck to paycheck. The Fed has already cut rates 3 times in 2025, but every time Jerome Powell talks, he warns us that inflation still isn't tamed. Unemployment crept up to 4.4%. Doesn't sound like much, but it feels like the first knock on the door when you're worried about a recession. Then throw in wars and trouble overseas, pushing energy prices all over the place. No wonder folks let out a sigh of relief when they heard about this latest cut, even if it only lasts a minute. The federal funds rate is now down to 3.5%, 3.75%, a level that actually feels a little easier to live with for families buried under mortgage debt, credit cards, and student loans. If you've got a $50,000 mortgage, you might save around $100 a month now, enough to cover the electric bill or put a couple extra bags of groceries in the cart. Have you ever stood in the aisle trying to decide what you can actually afford to buy and what has to stay on the shelf? If you have, then you know exactly how big $100 can feel. On social media, number Fed rate cut blew up overnight. People posted everything from "finally I can breathe a little" to "this is just a Band-Aid." The arguments go back and forth like waves hitting the beach. Nobody's backing down, and nobody's completely wrong. Under all that noise, a verse from Revelation 6:6 floats by quietly. "A quart of wheat for a day's wages, but don't damage the oil and the wine." It's not shouted from the rooftops. It just shows up like an old picture you forgot you had, reminding us that high prices and hard times of scarcity have been around forever. But the markets didn't exactly throw a party. Stocks stayed pretty calm, yet the clouds of unemployment and rising prices are still hanging over everybody's head. Food and energy keep getting more expensive, so even with a little relief on interest, some families still can't keep up with everyday bills. When you see long lines at the food banks, it's hard not to think that all those big macro numbers don't mean much at the kitchen table. That makes Matthew 24:7 hit close to home. There will be famines in various places, not as some scary judgment, just a mirror showing what's going on right now. Of course, the skeptics have a point too. They say it's just the normal economic cycle. Boom, bust, tighten, loosen. We've been through worse recessions and the world kept turning. No need to read anything supernatural into it. Fair enough. But is that the whole picture? When inflation stays high longer than anyone thought, when trouble pops up in so many places at once, when every model gets proved wrong over and over, is it really all just coincidence? Some things look random until they don't anymore. In times like these, a line from Luke 21:11 slips in like a quiet footnote. There will be food shortages in many lands. Not to scare anybody, just to say, maybe we ought to look past the charts and numbers sometimes. You've probably felt it yourself, that uneasy sense that the world is changing faster than we expected. When you step back, this Fed rate cut isn't only about money. It's a gentle but sharp reminder that we've put way too much trust in stuff, in numbers, in systems we thought could never fail. But any economic setup, no matter how strong it looks, can shake with one little push. And every shake like this points to the bigger picture, the one that's been talked about for a long, long time. If you look close, the story isn't really about interest rates. It's about how fragile we are, how limited our systems are, and the quiet call to turn back to faith before the next round of shaking starts. This rate cut feels like one last soft warning. Get ready, because bigger changes are still coming. 3. Immigration debate explodes after Good Samaritan murder on Charlotte train. On December 5th, 2025, Charlotte didn't just see a killing on the subway. It saw a new line get crossed in the long, slow-burning fight over immigration, borders, and whether regular Americans are still safe. The death of 24-year-old Kenyon Doby, a guy who simply stepped in to stop what looked like a small argument, turned into something much bigger real fast. It became a picture of an America that stretched tight, pulled in different directions by waves of migrants bigger than anything we've ever seen, and by questions about right and wrong nobody can dodge anymore. When that video of Doby going down inside the cold blue train car hit the internet, it wasn't just one man's tragedy. It put a face on the uneasy feeling the whole country has been trying to keep quiet about for way too long. This happened right when the country is going through the biggest surge of people crossing the southern border in modern history. Homeland Security says millions have come across just in 2025, a number big enough to change how everybody feels about safety, control, and what this country is even going to look like down the road. In the middle of all that, the suspect, Oscar Solorzano from Honduras, a man already deported twice and banned from the trains for carrying a knife, stopped being just one bad guy. He became the match that lit the whole immigration argument on fire, from one end of the country to the other. Moments like this force a country to look in the mirror, whether folks like what they see or not. When the video of Solorzano stabbing Doby over and over spread like wildfire, more than 3 million views in under 24 hours, people's feelings spilled way past Charlotte. Elon Musk shared it. Crypto folks quickly made a hero meme coin to raise money for the victim's family and pulled in $665,000 overnight. That's how the internet works these days. Fast, messy, but full of energy. Anybody who watches that and still thinks we haven't reached a dangerous point probably hasn't seen the crowds in Texas and Minnesota holding signs about a wide-open border. Different places, different voices, but they're all asking the same quiet question nobody wants to say out loud. Is America losing the ability to protect itself? In the middle of all the noise, an old Bible verse started hitting harder. 2 Timothy 3:1 says, "In the last days, there will be very difficult times, and the hard times here aren't just money or politics alone. They're the kind where violence starts feeling normal." Plenty of folks who watched that video said they weren't even shocked anymore, just kind of used to it. And that's the scary part. When cruelty becomes everyday stuff, isn't that exactly what Jesus meant in Matthew 24:12 when he talked about wickedness increasing and love growing cold? Doby, still fighting for his life right now and needing every prayer he can get, stands for the opposite. He stepped in to protect somebody, a real-life Good Samaritan. Some people scroll past the story and feel a little sad, then move on. But anybody who stops and thinks a little longer realizes, when good people have to pay with their lives just for doing the right thing, that's not only a tragedy, it's a sign our whole sense of right and wrong is cracking. It feels heavy, like somebody's slowly turning a mirror toward the country so we can't look away. Of course, there's the other side saying this is just poverty, bad policy, inequality, that immigration isn't some end times thing, and that immigrants help the economy more than they hurt it. But with violent incidents piling up all through 2025, from Charlotte to Minneapolis, it gets harder to brush off the connection to those old warnings in Scripture. Sometimes, the truth doesn't need anybody to shout it. It just lines the events up in front of us and speaks for itself. And deep in the Jewish Christian tradition, Jeremiah 22:3 tells us to treat the foreigner fairly, but it also warns what happens when laws are ignored and order breaks down. Looking at this story, you can see it as just another crime, or you can see it as one more piece in a much bigger picture, a picture of a nation moving faster and faster toward the signs of the last days, not to scare anybody, but to call people back to what's right. If anything echoes from Dobie's tragedy, it's a quiet, clear reminder that moral decline never happens all at once. It builds, one awful event after another, until we finally have to face it. And when we step back and look at the whole thing, record numbers crossing the border, violence on the rise, communities torn apart, we can't help feeling what many generations before us warned about. This is a wake-up moment, not to panic, but to turn back, because sometimes the most painful upheavals are the last loud call to come back to the light. 4. Trump's legal setback. Court blocks National Guard deployment and Texas election map fight. The 11th of December 2025 started off like one of those split-screen news days. On one side, Republicans scored a big win when the Supreme Court gave the green light to Texas's new election map. On the other, President Trump took a surprise hit when a federal judge slammed the brakes on sending National Guard troops into Los Angeles, a direct slap at the heart of his executive power. Two rulings, just hours apart, pulling America in opposite directions at the same time. For a lot of folks, this isn't just about one state or one court case anymore. It feels like the whole country is holding its breath and letting it out all at once. With the nation already torn up after the 2024 election, every move from Washington hits a raw nerve. The Trump administration, already catching heat for militarizing things at home, now has another stack of lawsuits from blue states. When Judge Charles Breyer issued his order, telling nearly 300 National Guard troops to stand down in LA, and handing control straight back to California, you could almost hear the next chapter of the federal versus state power struggle click into place. Quiet, but ice cold. The Texas map tells a whole different story. Adding 5 districts tilted toward the GOP gives Republicans a solid launching pad for the 2026 midterms. But the second that ruling dropped, X, lit up like a battlefield. Governors like Gavin Newsom started firing off tweets calling it blatant power grabbing, and suddenly everybody's arguing again about where democracy ends and raw power begins. Those posts got mixed in with talk about that unsolved pipe bomb case and the freshly unsealed Epstein files, and the whole 2025 political air just smells like distrust. In the middle of all these mixed signals, you can almost feel the country vibrating. Nothing sits still for 5 seconds. Every decision, every statement bounces 10 times louder than normal. Sometimes when you're scrolling through the latest headlines, it's a weird feeling, like if you blink, the whole story might flip the other way. If you've ever had that quiet thought, something bigger is moving under all this, you're definitely not the only one. In times like these, certain Bible verses start jumping off the page in ways that are hard to explain. Matthew 24:10 says, "Many will turn away from the faith and will betray and hate each other." You don't have to look far to see that playing out in the shouting matches online, in the tug-of-war between states, in families who won't even talk politics at Thanksgiving anymore. Those cracks feel like they're spreading faster every day. Then Luke 21:25 talks about nations being in anguish and perplexity. And it's tough to ignore that picture when the country keeps getting hit with disasters, violence, and now power struggles inside its own government. And Romans 13:1 says, "Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established." That verse doesn't get quoted much these days, but it carries real weight when Trump runs into a legal wall like this. For folks who take the Bible seriously, this isn't just politics. It's a reminder that power cut loose from God's direction hits a limit pretty quick. Some people read the news and move on. Others stop a little longer and wonder if this is heaven's gentle way of saying nobody gets to outrun his plan. Of course, plenty of folks push right back and say, look, this is just democracy doing its job. Courts checking the White House, states guarding their turf. No end-time stuff, no signs, just the Constitution working. They're not wrong. But that view still doesn't explain why everything in 2025 feels like it's echoing together, shaking people's trust harder than usual. When political division gets so bad, you don't even recognize our neighbors online anymore. Talking about last days signs doesn't sound crazy anymore. Bottom line, America in 2025 isn't just wrestling with politics. It's wrestling with a full-blown crisis of faith in pretty much everything. People are asking, what's actually holding us together? What's keeping us from sliding all the way into hate and chaos? Maybe that's why, right now, the Bible doesn't feel like an old book gathering dust. It feels like a roadmap saying the chaos isn't random. It's a wake-up call to come back to humility and love. In the end, Trump's courtroom loss isn't just another political headline. It's a reminder that power struggles never stay inside courtrooms or Congress. They always start in the human heart. And if those old prophecies are right, this isn't the moment to pick a side. It's the moment to pick the light. 5. Amazing northern lights spread across Northern America. On the evening of December 11th, 2025, the sky over Northern America suddenly lit up with colors you don't see every day. Long ribbons of pink, green, and purple dancing and twisting like living silk, stretching all the way from Alaska down to Minnesota and Michigan. Nobody thought the aurora would ever come that far south, and nobody expected it to grab the attention of millions of people in one single night. But it happened, and it wasn't just pretty. It felt like a gentle reminder from way up above, as if the sky decided to speak up right in the middle of the most confusing, divided time this country has seen in years. The scientists explained it plain and simple. The sun goes through an 11-year cycle, and 2025 is the peak. That caused a G4 geomagnetic storm, something that hardly ever happened in the last cycle. NASA folks had been expecting it for a while, but no one guessed it would put on a show this spectacular. The lights started around 4 in the afternoon and kept going until 1 in the morning. A lot of us felt like we were inside some beautiful movie, where the line between real life and something heavenly got real blurry. This year's aurora wasn't like the old ones. It wasn't just soft green waves in a dark sky. This time there were bright pink streaks that looked like fireworks, and glowing emerald greens that looked almost liquid, swirling together in huge spirals. Places like Iowa and Wisconsin, where you almost never see the northern lights, had thousands of folks pulling off highways, standing in fields and parking lots, staring up like they didn't want to miss a second of it. Videos on X spread like wildfire. Some got tens of millions of views overnight. Hotels in Minnesota were completely booked within 2 hours. A regular old sky event turned into the hottest ticket in town. If you've ever looked up at a starry night and suddenly felt tiny in the best kind of way, this aurora made that feeling 10 times stronger. You didn't have to believe in signs or prophecies. Just watching those lights tear through the darkness was enough to make something stir inside you that's hard to put into words. And if you caught yourself pausing a little longer on one of those short phone videos, you probably felt that strange energy too, like the sky cracked open for a minute and let us peek at something bigger than this world. But behind all that beauty was some serious business. GPS went haywire for hours across Alaska and parts of Canada, messing with airplanes and ships. NOAA had to put out warnings about bad navigation, and some flights got rerouted fast. A few experts said if the storm had been just 1 level stronger, it could have knocked out power grids. So while the sky looked like a painting, things down here on the ground got a little shaky, like nature was sending a quiet but clear message to pay attention. That's when Bible verses started popping up all over social media. Luke 21:25 says it plain. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity. It's hard not to think about that when the biggest northern lights in decades show up the very year the sun is angriest, right when America feels more torn apart than ever. Seeing those lights and then reading those words, well, it makes you wonder if this is just physics or something written a long time ago coming true. Matthew 24:29 says, "The sun will be darkened, the moon won't give light, and the stars will fall from the sky." The aurora isn't darkness, but it's a direct result of an unusually wild sun, real commotion in the heavens. When colors nobody's ever seen before cut across the American sky, those old verses stop feeling like poetry and start looking like something millions of us are recording on our phones. Then there's Ezekiel 1:4. "I looked, and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light." That description gives you chills when you see the lights rolling down from the North Pole all the way to Minnesota, a moving, flickering curtain that really does look like a living cloud of fire. Of course, plenty of folks say, "Hold on, it's just science. The sun's at its peak, the storm was strong, the lights went farther south. No miracles, no end times." They're not wrong about the science. But what gets people thinking is the timing. 2025 brings the strongest aurora in decades, right when political chaos, climate trouble, and everything else seem to be hitting all at once, just like those old prophecies describe the last days. That's why this one feels different. It's not just lights in the sky. It's lighting up questions most of us try not think about. Is something trying to get our attention? Is God using the heavens themselves to wake us up? Believe it or not, it's hard to deny that the 2025 Northern Lights feel like a milestone, a reminder that some things are moving way beyond what we can figure out. And for those who see the world through the Bible, this isn't just pretty. It's a call from above, asking us to wake up before the night finally closes in. 6. Small plane makes emergency landing on top of a car on I-95 inches, Brevard County, Florida. There are moments that make the whole country hold its breath, not because somebody died, but because the line between life and death can be as thin as a piece of metal falling out of the sky. That's exactly what happened in Brevard County, Florida on December 8, 2025. A little plane came straight down onto the interstate, landed right on top of a moving car, and somehow nobody got killed. Stories like that make you stop for a second, take a deep breath, and wonder, is anything in this life really just random? The thing blew up all over social media like a wave, hitting everybody's phone at once. Dashcam videos, shocked comments, it all added up to the same feeling. Something bigger is going on around us. If you've ever gotten chills watching something that doesn't seem possible, you know how folks felt watching it. Not scared, just stunned and quietly thankful. Every once in a while, we need a jolt like that to remember how small we really are. It happened at 5:45 in the evening, rush hour, southbound I-95 right around Cocoa. The twin-engine plane lost power while it was flying low. Instead of trying to make it to the nearest airport, the 27-year-old pilot decided to put it down on the highway, a choice where a couple seconds either way could have turned into a nightmare. The plane hit a 2023 Toyota Camry driven by a 57-year-old lady. The amazing part? No explosion, no fire, just the screech of metal, a flash of light when it touched down, and then this weird silence that left every witness frozen. Traffic was shut down for over 2 hours. Florida Highway Patrol closed all the lanes. NTSB and FAA jumped right on the investigation. Funny thing, this was the second emergency landing in that area in just a few weeks, enough to get folks in Florida talking. With strange winter storms, bad weather and worries, and older planes needing more maintenance, experts are saying these incidents aren't rare anymore. When Elon Musk posted on X, "Miracle no fatalities. Aviation tech needs upgrade," people shared the video even more, and it became the biggest story of the day. But there's a deeper feeling a lot of us can't shake. How fragile life is, and how many strange things have been piling up in 2025. When a plane drops out of the sky right in the middle of rush hour traffic, It's not just a mechanical failure anymore, it shakes everybody up. The Bible talked about times like this in Matthew 24, verses 6 and 7, saying we'd hear of wars and rumors of wars and trouble in many places, signs that harder days are coming. Those words are thousands of years old, but put them next to all the storms, accidents, and trouble we're seeing now, and it sure feels like the picture is getting clear. That uneasy feeling shows up again in Luke 21, 25 and 26, talking about nations being perplexed and people's hearts failing them for fear because of things coming on the earth. Nobody driving on I-95 that evening thought they were about to see something straight out of a movie. But that's what throws us off. We really don't control much except the moment we're in. And in that moment, the lady in the Camry walked away alive. Not because of technology, but because of what a lot of folks simply call a miracle. Every miracle carries a message. Psalm 91, verse 11 says, "For he shall give his angels charge over you, to keep you in all your ways." For many who watched that video, those words rang loud and clear. Sometimes we're flat out helpless, yet still protected in a way that's hard to explain. Of course, some folks say it was just luck and a good pilot. They point to FAA numbers, over 1,200 emergency landings a year, and Florida has tons of private planes. That's true. But it doesn't explain why so many odd things are happening all at once, right when storms and strange lights in the sky and everything else are at a peak. Sometimes it's not about one event. It's the whole picture coming together. Put this crash together with the weird snowstorms, northern lights seen clear down in Iowa, political mess, and dangerous attacks we've seen just this week, and the pieces start fitting like a puzzle. The plane on I-95 isn't just a wow news story. It's a loud reminder that we're walking into a time when everything feels more fragile, and we need to stay awake like never before. It might scare you to think about it, but sometimes a little fear is exactly what makes us turn back to the right place for shelter. And that day in Florida, where nobody died in something that should have been a tragedy, feels like a quiet voice from heaven saying, "Wake up, come to me. Life is too thin to go it alone." And there you have it. 6 big stories from America yesterday, every one of them lining up with the warnings and prophecies the Lord gave us thousands of years ago. Do you see it now? Nothing feels random anymore. It's like everything is following some unseen picture that's finally coming into focus. Looking back at everything that's happened, we can't just keep living like all these signs are random coincidences. This is the moment each of us needs to stop, wake up, and ask ourselves, what is calling me back home? Let's repent, pray, and put our full trust in the Lord, because only in Him will we find true peace in this crazy, shaken-up world. If any of this is stirring something in your heart, even just a little, I'd love for you to leave a prayer or a thought down in the comments. It's not just sharing, it's how we hold each other up and spread His love in these important days. And if this spoke to you, please hit like, share it with someone, and subscribe so we can keep walking this road together, watching for the signs of the times. Thank you for sticking with me to the end. May God's peace and protection be with you and your family always.
Debris continued to overwhelm emergency workers and the survivors there.
Live on GMA as millions across the country face a flash flooding threat. We're showing you what...
In the last few years, it's like the Earth has grabbed humanity by the collar and started shaking hard. Climate changes that used to stay in the milder regions are now spilling down into the driest spots of the Middle East. In those lands where even an inch of water is as rare as gold, people have seen hail pour down like icy marbles, snow blanketing the Judean desert in white, and flash floods rushing through at tens of miles an hour, wiping away every trace of human footprints. For many folks, it's just climate change, rising temps, shifting poles, wild weather patterns gone haywire. But for those with faith, these feel like the first knocks on the door of the end times. Maybe you felt something off in the air too. Winters that don't feel like winters anymore. Storms showing up out of season. Or heat waves that drag on way too long. It all seems like the earth is trying to tell us something. And when you look through the lens of the Bible, those events take on a whole new shape. Not just natural glitches, but warnings written thousands of years ago, like when the Bible says in Luke 21:26 that the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And in today's video, I'm going to walk you through 7 strange weather events in the Middle East, all documented for real in 2024, 2025. We'll go step by step from the background to how they line up with Bible verses to see if this is just coincidence or pieces of a bigger plan. And when these climate signs meet up with geopolitical shifts, especially Middle East conflicts and global ice melt, the big question left for each of us is this: is our time running short and we just haven't noticed? So, are you ready to dive into each one? Let's start with 1. Hail in Jerusalem. Tears from the sky. On the night of May 4th, 2025, Jerusalem, a place that's usually bone dry and scorching hot, suddenly went quiet, like it was holding its breath. Way up in the sky, a strange cold front rolled in, and then hail started falling. Little round ice balls, maybe half an inch to 3/4 of an inch across, shining like teardrops, came down on ground that's used to temps over 100 degrees. Folks just stood there staring, like heaven had reached down and touched the desert. Can you imagine it? If you'd been standing right there in Jerusalem that moment, wouldn't it have given you chills? Jerusalem sits about 2,575 feet above sea level. Normally, it only gets 20 to 24 inches of rain a year, and almost all of that comes in winter. But 2025 has been a wild year weather-wise, like somebody flipped the whole chessboard upside down. Strong winds, moisture blowing in from the Mediterranean, and some weird cold air all crashed together overhead and cooked up a rare little storm. The hail hit around the Dimona area, a desert town about 60 miles away, and left people speechless. Nobody had ever seen anything like it in the middle of spring. After the sun dropped behind the Judean hills and the sky started fading, everything went dark real fast, like someone pulled a curtain. In just a couple minutes, those white ice stones started pouring down, hitting the baked hard ground with a steady plink, plink, plink. A guy named Matanel Rahamim, who lives in the Jerusalem suburbs, caught it on video. You can see the little hailstones rolling across his patio, catching the moonlight and sparkling silver. The whole neighborhood ran outside. Kids were laughing their heads off, grown-ups holding out their hands to catch the ice-cold pieces. Somebody yelled, "It's like God is crying!" But in the middle of all that wonder, the Bible echoes something a little heavier, a warning. Exodus chapter 9, verses 18 and 19 says, "Tomorrow about this time I will cause very heavy hail to fall. Now send and gather your livestock and everything you have in the field. For the hail shall come down on every man and animal that is in the field and is not brought home, and they shall die." Those words feel like a reminder. Hail isn't always just weather. Sometimes it's judgment. Then there's the fierce picture in Revelation 16:21. "And great hailstones, heavy as 100 pounds, dropped from heaven on people, and they cursed God for the plague of the hail, because that plague was so terrible." Or the warning back in Exodus 10:5 about disasters so thick, the ground itself can't even be seen. All 3 passages hit the same serious note. When nature goes crazy, it's never just random. Some folks say, it's just climate change. Sure, science can explain how it happened, but why did it zero in on the one patch of earth right at the heart of Bible prophecy? Psalm 148:8 spells it out plain: fire and hail, snow and mist, stormy wind, fulfilling His word. Nature doesn't throw tantrums on its own. It answers to someone. So that hailstorm over Jerusalem on the night of May 4th, 2025, wasn't some fluke. It was a sign, a gentle but sharp wake-up call that time is moving faster than we think, that the Earth's weather patterns are flipping, and the things the Bible said would happen are starting to show up. This won't be the last hail we see. It's only the first warning. 2. A sudden downpour in the middle of Jerusalem Day.